TBRI.
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 TOVD.
TBRI.
TBRI, Trust-Based Relational Intervention.
TBRI is an attachment-based,
Trauma-informed intervention
that is designed to meet the complex needs
of vulnerable children.
TBRI uses empowering principles
To address physical needs,
connecting principles for attachment needs,
and correcting principles to disarm fear-based behaviors.
While TBRI is based on years of attachment, sensory processing, and neuroscience research,
the heartbeat of TBRI is connection.
Hello and welcome to the TBRI podcast. You're listening to Season 11, Episode 8. On this show, we talk all about trust-based relational intervention, or TBRI. We talk about different elements of the model itself, and we also talk about how TBRI is applied in various communities of care and practice. I'm Emily Pickett, producer of the podcast, and today we have a hometown guest. Henry Milton has been a trainer and consultation specialist with the Institute for nearly 15 years. If you have gone through TBRI practitioner training, if you have watched Hope for the Journey or attended Empowered to Connect, you are familiar with Henry. He may even be a household name in your home or your organization. We sat down with Henry to talk about his time at KPICD. We are celebrating 20 years as an institute in 2025, and Henry has been around for a lot of it. So he talks about how he got the job, which is a great story, the evolution of the work since he's been here, and his hopes for the future. This conversation was so fun, such a great way to honor our 20th year. We're going to have more conversations about celebrating the 20th year as an institute throughout the rest of 2025, so stay tuned for those. And in the meantime, please enjoy this conversation with the one and only Henry Milton.
Morning, Henry. Welcome back to the podcast.
Good morning. Thank you for having me back. Appreciate it.
This is so fun. I was thinking about, this episode today, and we're talking kind of a look back over the 20 years. And you've been around, when did you start at the Institute?
2010.
2010. Okay, so I came along as practitioner in 2011, and then just a few years later, you guys started the Travis County Collaborative, and I remember you at that first training, and I was like, oh, man, this guy knows what's up. And you and Darren were running mics and all over the place.
That's
It's so fun, to look back on that journey.
Yeah.
So, I think first, thanks for all you've done to really make such a big impact. I do think so many people know you and are grateful for your work, and I know I'm certainly one of them.
Wow. Well, thank you very much for having me. When you say 2010, it just I think about it, and so much has changed, so much has grown. So yeah, thank you for saying that, and I appreciate you guys giving me compliments.
Yeah, absolutely.
It goes a long way.
So in 2010, when you joined the Institute, what was the work like? Because we have definitely evolved, but what kind of things were y'all doing then? What did it look like? I know we didn't even, or you guys at that time didn't have the different teams we have now. So what did things look like?
Well, you just had a trailblazer in Karen and David, who were just machines, I think. And Karen was doing all these different things and training in camps and working with parents. There's a lot of work with parents. We did a lot of the camps were longer. When I came in, we had a lot of stuff with foster parents and adoptions. In-home programs is what she was doing right before I came in. So she was working with families and traveling. Also, she was going out of town in Iceland. I think she was working with kids, a particular child, I think, in Iceland. And so it was real busy. It was innovative. It was this kind of energy that I needed at that time for me. For me, I was just coming back from my wife and I coming back. And so I just needed a job. That's right. It was really, okay, let's just get to work. I was a stay-at-home dad for a little bit as we transitioned back from Cincinnati. And I was like a stay-at-home dad. I said, let me just make sure my daughter's okay. I had those things in place, but then I needed to get back to work. And I looked online and saw the job. I had no idea. So I mean, the camps, that's when I first started. I was out of orientation, ran across the street and went into camps. I don't know, but it was in rooms with boxes of bubble gum all the way up to the ceiling. I remember we had that and these magic wands that we still have. We had all of this stuff and it was right up on me, literally. And
In your office?
in the office, it would be me and it was a Tabitha, it was Jim Harlow, who was also a trainer with me. We were trying to develop resources, we were doing projects. It was this, we're going to save this world. We're going to try to get out here and do all of this stuff. So
Yeah.
in and of those ideas of all of the global stuff, she was talking like this, and this little lady come by and just say, we're going to make a t-shirts, we're going to make this, we're going to make widgets. And you're like, whoa, I just wanted a regular 9 to 5. I didn't know.
Cool.
And I almost didn't take the job. I think I told you that. I don't know if I told you that story.
Uh-uh.
That was, I think that was what helped me get the job is because I didn't want to take the job. And I explained, basically, we were in the interview and Dr. Cross and Allison were in the room and who was our grant writer.
Mm-hmm.
That was, and thank you to the Reese Jones folks, because that was the reason why I got the job. It was the
Mm-hmm.
grant. And I told Dr. Cross, I said, I don't know about all the travel. I got a new baby and I had been a
Mm-hmm.
stay-at-home dad and my son is still young. And I said, I just don't want to be the dude on the road. I mean, on the road a little bit, but I'm hearing a lot about on the road because Dr.
Mm-hmm.
Cross was on the road. And I shook his hand in Allison. I said, yeah, I'm probably going to pass.
Wow.
I needed a job, and it wasn't my resume. It wasn't what I've done in the past. It was they looked at that as
Mm-hmm.
that's the kind of people we want doing
Yeah.
work. And so my honesty and being transparent helped me get the job. First time being myself, really, truthfully, at a crossroad where I needed a job. And
Yeah.
and here we are 15 years later.
Goodness gracious. Henry, I cannot tell you the number of people that are listening to this that are like, wait a second. Like he didn't want the job and he got the job and it's at the Institute, which is now like people coming in now have a very different perspective than that because the work has grown so much and it's you know, we're pretty fortunate to have our jobs and it's an honor and all of that. And so I love that that was your start because when we talk about the journey, right, like we're all looking back and what our journeys have been and where we've been and all of that thing, all of that. And now it's like, can you imagine not doing it now?
No, it's a way I do it. So
Yeah.
it was a job, but now it's just kind of what I do. It's
Yeah.
just I've kind of let it in, and that was the journey I had to go through.
Yeah. That
And-
is so cool. So I remember some stories from the old days. Not the old days, but the beginnings of the Institute and people calling up and like Dr. Purvis and Karen answering the phone or Dr. Cross, they just call and say, "Can I talk to them?" And they're like, "Sure." And they're, helping them solve the problem that's happening in their family. And um, over the
Never
years,
knew.
what'd you say?
I said you never knew what phone you were going to get. The phone would ring. You never knew. Yeah.
Yeah.
Starting
And
early.
like the team was so small at that time and the work was just beginning to grow. And so the idea of like being able to call and one of those people answer their phone or be available in that moment is
Mhm.
so different than where we are today. Of course, we lost Dr. Purvis and Dr. Cross is retired, so people aren't calling for them necessarily, but everybody's on the run now and it's so busy. Um,
Mhm.
so when you think back to those days of some of that more direct work, a family calling up and you being able to kind of walk through a problem to the evolution of then we started doing practitioner training, or you guys did, I wasn't on the team then,
Mhm.
to then we really got into this like we need the practitioners so they can do the work and we can just be behind them and supporting. What was that transition like for you? Was that hard?
Yeah, I mean, we were just, and still that hard. That's the good thing I see over the growth over the years is that humility is still there
Hmm.
where, and to me, a service heart. I know,
Hmm.
hearing these parents, seeing these parents who've been through abuse. I mean, some of the parents calling in their kids are the abuser. And what is that like to be at
Right.
home with this child every day, and that's the same child that's hurting you? You know, I've just had a recent conversation about that, but we had those conversations coming a lot, and it was in the beginning when Dr. Purvis would go into these mega conferences, and then the phone calls will ring because she just sparks some thoughts in people
Mm-hmm.
about what this is, what they're dealing with, and what we're seeing, our side, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't a problem at the time because it was early and we were still in the mom and pop vibe of like, we had the boxes, we had the servants, and so people would call and I would just say, hey, ma'am, let's talk.
Yeah.
Some parents just that was some dads just wanted to talk. I just
Yep.
need to drop a couple words and just talk and then we'll give them information about what we're doing. And we had our resources still on, in DVDs, which we still
Mm-hmm.
still transition out of that. And so if there was a parent, I'll ask Purvis, could I send this to this dad, or what would be a good dad video? We had these particular things that would help moms or whoever, right? It was just helping. But as that grew, that was the transition where we kind of had to tone that down and organize a little bit, because as much as you really want to help and do that, you wouldn't be able to get anything done with that model because there would be so much that you had to do. So the
Mm-hmm.
practitioners right now are out here, doing the work, the practitioner training. And so they get to do that. They get the support and we get to meet the needs. And so that was a big thing for me because I mean, I didn't realize how much I was going on that and how much we were doing and trying to keep fidelity, trying to meet the needs, that can be
Mm-hmm.
kind of like cumbersome. So we've evolved a little bit more with our outreach, our agencies, and those specialists are being able to support the parents a lot longer than my conversation. And so
Right.
it was, and it was hard when people say, well, do you know of a residential facility that's doing work like you guys? And in the beginning, there were few, do you know of a trauma specialist that's going to meet the needs and connection before correction and all of this stuff that we talk about? And it was, we were noticing that as we kept doing the practitioners, as we start growing, it was easier, and it's still kind of, certain situations, but it's easier now to say, oh yeah, I know about this school. I know about certain people in Lewiston, Idaho, or Canada, or or Brazil. I know my
Right.
friends in Brazil, and somebody's asked, I need somebody, a therapist is speaking Portuguese. I can do that, and that's from all of our work, going
Yeah.
out training, consultations. And then these people, which I love, is that as we passed the baton that was given to me, and I passed that baton to them, they still have that humility and service heart. And that's
Mm-hmm.
what I love about the relationships I still have with these folks. I still talk to people from when I first started because
I believe it.
you
I
know,
believe it.
and call and just text and they inspire me and they say I inspire them sometimes. So it's just us fellowship and helping to keep this growing. So we're still keeping that same energy and spark that I think we need to do this work a
Yeah.
long time, because that's going to be needed for the next 20 years, I think. But
Mm-hmm.
it's this idea of us knowing, keeping the main thing the main thing.
It's the main thing, the
We
main
never did
thing.
it, but we organized it. And that's basically a
Right.
long story long, but that's just basically what it is.
No, it's so good though. And I'm curious, like if this happened to you, but when I moved from
Mhm.
working directly in foster care, into this work, which would be kind of like your transition from those early days into how we're doing things now, I feel like I went through a grief process of being a step away from kids and families and really working with the professionals. Because for I think for both of us, maybe I know for me, like that work with the kids and families was kind of where my heart beat. And so to be a step away it took me a minute to get acclimated to the idea of like, actually
Yeah,
now my job is to support professionals and
right.
to and to help them serve the kids and families. And so I think that for me was kind of a grief process.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's my history, working with the kids.
Yeah.
The balance has been, which is, it's been a compromise in a way, is that we do Hope Connection camps still, which I'm glad
Yeah.
that came back. Because when we lost Dr. Purvis, the question was, do we want to keep doing camps? And for a little while, we held off on that until that came. So when I'm in camp, I feel that, oh, okay, I'm working with it, I'm working with a family, I'm working with the kids, and I could see a kid laugh, I could see a child had a situation where, I was trying to give a kid a high five and they flinched, they were nervous, and I'm now applying what I've learned in these situations of, all of this information to say, okay, I kind of know what that is. His level of safety for a high five means, who's this guy that's coming up to me giving them a high five, and so you see at the end of camp they're high fiving you, they're safe and they're connected and families are going back with some skills. And so that's been the compromise. But you're right. I sometimes I do. I'm like, man, I feel like I'm not in it,
Yeah.
But this is work that I've found to be fulfilling, when we went to Brazil last year too, and we got off the plane, and the people in Brazil, the organization, I don't know if I can mention organizations or anything, but ABBA was able to like take us to the streets, and Raquel and her team and people out there took us to the streets, and she asked, "Could you pray, for the kids?" And these are kids that are on the streets, and I was like, I don't know if I froze up or not, but I know somebody else did it. But it felt really good to give kids something and put a smile, and that's kind of where I've been called to do. I feel like I'm good at that. And just say, I don't know anything else about the culture. I don't know it, but I know I can put a smile on a child's face. I can try. And I was able to do that. That felt really good. And so they brought me back into a better training mode, better. So when our partners allow us to do that and we get involved in camps and stuff, keep doing that, because and if you have, to me, if you have challenges, I think go volunteer to camp, go get involved. You'll feel it, and that spirit will come in and it'll help you in other ways. So anyway, that might be a little preachy, but that's kind of that's what helped me.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I try to do the camp every year too, because it kind of connects you back to boots on the ground.
That's it.
And to see that evolution in the kids from the first weekend to the second weekend, and now my heart has become the adults. And so to see the parents over those couple of weekends and all of that. But yeah, it's really, really important, I think, as we try to do the work we're doing, to also stay connected. And I think that helps so much. So looking back 15 years ago now, and now you see the global work. We're on 6 of the 7 continents. We're all over the United States, right? Like what does that feel like for you, knowing kind of when the phone rang, somebody answered, and we help families individually, to seeing the global work? What does that feel like?
Other than the 3 o'clock meetings in the morning and time frame, yeah, that's it's a challenge because you got so many people, but it feels right because that's kind of where, we know we have confidence, right? Because we know our kids, the yesterday pain that they had, is affecting them in their actions and the way they do the day-to-day in the present. And so we know the past is affecting the future and the present, but we don't know, how that works in Brazil and Africa. So I love that we stay collaborative. And I think that's where I think we have to continue to grow, because I don't know, like we had a talk on Africa call. This was about a week or two ago, and we were just talking about parent burnout, but there's another level for certain situations. If you go to certain places, they might even have, similar stuff that we have, but they might also have some extreme. And so just to hear what they deal with and how they work through those situations, I think it's been rewarding. It's been learning. I've learned, and I think that as we keep growing and reaching these different, that I just want to stay like a sponge. I don't want to off as I know how to fix things, and I don't do that. And I think that's kind of where we grow, because we all want our kids to thrive. I don't too many people that don't want these children, especially the hurt children, to come out of that. You want to help them, and you try so many strategies. Frustration, out of reaction. I mean, and and I know how that can be. I've been on both sides, where I'm frustrated with these children.
Yeah.
And they do. I mean, sometimes certain children are going through so much that they don't want you to not be happy. They just got so much the past,
Yeah.
up on them. So yeah, I think that it's been big. It's bigger. I mean, like you do Europe, all these different places. And so I mean, it's good to learn about what's going on in Poland. What does Poland culture do with trauma? It's Latvia. What is Ukraine? Even Ukraine dealing with stuff now. So I always get on those calls if I can to listen, to learn.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's so important. I think one of the things that our team has really developed an understanding of over the years, with just a significant depth, is the importance of understanding the culture that we're going into and the importance of ensuring that the people that live in this culture are the leaders of the TBRI journey there. We're here to scaffold, we're here to support, we're here to cheerlead and give them tools and resources, but trusting them more than us is really one of the most pivotal things we can do because they know better than we do. So we can bring TBRI, and TBRI is TBRI. Other than if we need to make an allowance for a culture, we do that. Like we're not going to bring harm to a culture by saying that something that's contradictory to the culture. And so I just think it's been fun to see how not only the like shift from local to global has happened, but also like our evolution within the global work of like we want to empower the leaders in the community to lead the community. We're not trying to come in and be the, quote unquote American leaders, and that really, really feels good.
yeah, that's what we've done this last couple months or so now on our call with Africa. And I talked to Cheryl, and she's with Kids Alive in Kenya, and then I talked to Destiny's in Liberia, and then these are people who are on, they're doing the family groups. So why not am I not talking to them? Like, how does this work? What is the family's response to when we talk about connection before correction? And now we're allowing them to tell that story with a balance of all of our professionals from the States. And I like the way that feels because it feels like they have the voice, they have understanding, and then we're allowing that from Zambia all the way to everywhere, Ethiopia, all of the countries that we work with are able to speak on how it works because it's different. Ethiopia is different from Kenya. And so I can't just say we're going to do Africa. I got Kenya and Africa, food, everything, the way they dance in Ethiopia, and Kenya. It's just different. So that's respect. I think that's what I think Dr. Purvis was talking, and even Dr. Cross when we were talking about we got a lot of missions to do, and we want to keep doing this with humility, but we do have to as we grow. And that's the thing is that, the one thing I want to keep is this understanding of as we spread, that it doesn't become lost in this manualization. That's the one thing I've always been thinking about with as we spread, because it's this interpersonal relational thing that we do, like parents and trainers working together. I think as we grow into and how people learn about it, I think it's good that they have that intact so it doesn't become like this next tool, because I think that's what happens. People start thinking, I'm going to do this tool and this kid is going to write.
Right.
And this kid's going to listen. This kid's, yeah. And can I tell this one story? This just popped in my, I was talking to Jim Harlow, who was a trainer of mine, and him and his wife Bonnie do equine therapy. And he was explaining TBRI in this way. He said, Henry, sometimes when people do horses, some people have whips, spurs. They have this term called breaking the horse. I saw that when I was 12 years old. My uncle got kicked. I was about to say something inappropriate, but my uncle got kicked. And I never won. I'm always still nervous around horses because of that incident, because he was doing a lot of those control and breaking, and he just doing what he was new. But then I also seen how people were, able to kind of do some different strategies. Him too, where he had to like build the trust. He had to be in tune to how the horse is faring if the horse is getting spooked, and it was not of like a compliance dominance type thing. It's a cooperation compliance. It's not I'm gonna dominate you to get control. It's just I'm gonna build trust to help some compliance. And I love that Jim always explains stuff like that for me because it helps me think about you know this information when I train it. So and that's kind of what's been happening over these 15 years. I still have those people that I can still call.
Yeah.
Deb Jones, who passed away, she was one of
Yeah.
I could talk to. And
Yeah.
Emmett, who's a lawyer in West Texas. I'm name dropping. These are old.
You
But
bringing
I
in
want to
the
give them
OG
respect
OGs.
because I wouldn't be here still training if it wasn't for these conversations. And Jay Durden, he's out there in Idaho. I talked to him. So it's a
Yeah.
lot all over now.
Yeah. I mean, Henry, it's just reflective of your capacity to build and develop and maintain good, healthy relationships. I mean, that's really what it's about when you're talking to people from 14, 15 years ago, still that are kind of keeping you pushing along and echoing back to you, the importance of the work and even the example, like when you're talking about the horse, it's like we can't break these kids.
Oh,
We can only mend in relationship. And so, gosh, I just love that so much.
and let me say
Um,
before I forget, I need to say Sarah Vargas.
yes.
Say her name. She's I just see talent written all over her. So I just want to make
Hmm.
sure. And I thought about Brazil. Haven't talked to her in a while, but Sarah,
Yeah.
I can go
There's a,
on and on. And if I forgot people, I'm sorry because there's a lot of names. That was very
oh yeah.
few in the beginning,
Yeah.
but over 15 years, I have a real strong trauma-informed family that I can call when
Mm.
I'm stressed.
Whew.
Yeah.
It'll make me cry, Henry.
Yeah, I do.
Goodness.
This is hard to do. I mean, 15 years to bring light and try to inspire, and sometimes you get pushed back. No one's happy about being nice to these kids, and you probably might be the only one at your organization, the only one training and just trying to talk about this stuff. And then you sometimes you need recharging. You're only human, and that's kind of
Yeah.
how these people help me. So.
It's great. So you and I were both privileged to be able to work with both Dr. Purvis and Dr. Cross. Do you have any favorite or a favorite story from your time with either one of them that you'd like to share?
Purvis was always the one that would come down, and you never had a boss that would ask you if you want to go lay in the Henry, you've been training, you're on the road, how's your family? And she was always asking about, how you doing. It was the work at times, but it was just her just talking about how you are,
Hmm.
and do you need to go lay down? I never had a boss ask
Hmm.
me that, do
Yeah.
you need to take a day? Do you need this? And she would just ask you about it. I miss being able to sit in a room and watch a video of parent and child interactions and listen to how she sees stuff.
Hmm.
Really miss that. I wish I would have taped all those moments I had because now I go back to videos and I'm thinking there was something she was seeing
Hmm.
that might
Hmm.
be helpful. But I miss her still, but I think I
Yeah.
appreciate my time. I had 6 years, so that
Yeah.
was good. I have a lot of memories, good memories. We had
Yeah.
tough ones too, but it was good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So looking forward, what's your hope for the next 20 years?
Yeah, keep going. It's a lot of stuff. I mean, the numbers are still going up. We still have kids that are still out there on the streets
Hmm.
hurting, and we have traditional stuff that's happening to these children in the systems. Still kids are still getting abused in homes. There are parents and foster parents that are still at right now thinking about, okay, do we keep going with this? Do we need, what are we missing? Well, why is
Hmm.
it that it's so hard? And I know that's still happening in schools. I mean, you see it in schools. If you underline some of these situations that we're seeing, I'm sure you're going to find there's some trauma connection, And so I hope that we keep doing this. I hope that
Hmm.
grant people still invest in this. I hope that we don't take away these programs. I hope that we stay humility when we keep doing it.
Hmm.
Like I said, is that we understand the message and don't forget why this is it. This is not, because it's rocket science or something like that. This is just what we need to be pushing out, and I think our
Hmm.
community is needed. I think organizations, different sectors needed. I just hope people will see the need in it, and that's kind of what I hope. And then we can get better as we grow, putting it on accountability on us at listening to what our partners and practitioners are needing. And we get focused a lot on trying to meet those needs like we do. So yeah, and stay together, because if we don't do this together, we're not gonna, even with our differences, I don't think we're gonna get stuff done.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Henry, you're the very best of us. Thanks for being on the podcast today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. You guys have a good one.
The TBRI podcast is produced by the Karen Purvis Institute of Child Development at TCU. To learn more about TBRI and the resources mentioned in this episode, please visit child.tcu.edu/podcast.